Hey friends, so welcome to DBC Inc. Thursday Night Live. I am Tara, your host, your co-host. We have Dave in the house tonight. Super excited about that.
Hey Tara, how you doing tonight?
Great. And what about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Hey everybody, as you're joining us, be sure to pop over there into the comments. Let us know that you're here, where you're from. You'll be entering to win a DBC Inc. book. And since it's just Tara and me tonight, that means that you get the full gamut. You get all the choices. So uh, yeah, if you have something that you've been wanting to read, you don't have yet, maybe tonight's your night, you could possibly win it. So make sure you throw a comment over there. And also, it's just fun for us to see who's here.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to make sure that we're live, Dave. Usually seeing a few of our fan favorites. I'm just going to make sure that they can see us. Yep, we are live. They are just not here yet. It's fine. Okay, so as you are joining, like Dave said, hey Yasina, good to see you. Be sure and get a comment over in the comments section. It could be a hi, it could be anything you want to tell us. How about tell us something good that's happened this week? Hey Nick, welcome.
And Banff. By the way, Banff is absolutely, completely gorgeous. It is such a beautiful area. I had the pleasure to do a professional development event there. And one of the cool things about that event was, these Canadians and their hockey, and they gave me a custom hockey jersey with my name on the back, and it was for the event, like with the event on there and stuff, and it was pretty awesome. I presented in it even.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember pictures of that for sure. Yeah. How cool. And Nick, have so much fun. And Ryan, of course, look at you. Look at you finishing. That's awesome. You're the fastest reader, but just released last week. I love it that you're taking a staycation too, Ryan. I love staycations as well. Sometimes it's just nice just to sit and read and not have a schedule.
So this is absolutely not fun. Family vacation with COVID.
Oh no. But yeah. Taking in the beautiful mountains. So
yeah, not cool.
Awesome.
Ryan, and Ryan mentioned finishing Instructional Coaching Connection, and I happen to have brought that. So so here it is, Instructional Coaching Connection from Nathan Lang-Rad. This is our second book with Nathan. He wrote another one with his husband Herbie, which is Teachers of Oz, not Wizards of Oz, based on the Wizards of Oz, but Teachers of Oz. And then now Nathan is an absolutely fantastic coach, instructional coach. And so here's his book about building relationships to better help and support teachers. And so this is the latest on the DBC Inc. line right here. Woo!
I love that book too. I think it's great for building relationships, which all of us, no matter where you lead, no, as long as you're dealing with humans, you're going to be building relationships. And it's just so great for that. Yeah, Jim Knight. So Jim Knight, not only is he's the forward of that book, Nathan speaks a lot for Jim over here in Kansas. I've actually seen him a few times.
Over here.
Over here, like right there in my backyard. No, I'm just kidding. Super good. Yeah, I can't wait to hear your review, Ryan. I saw that you might be putting that on your podcast. Be sure and tag us. We'd love to hear it.
Yesenia, on the way for a self-care weekend. I love it. Off to Houston. That's fantastic. Enjoy.
San Antonio, I think.
Oh, was it San Antonio?
Yeah.
Oh, San Antonio. Okay.
So fun.
Texas. I guess those places they're all different, aren't they?
They are, but they are both in Texas, so you win for that.
Well, enjoy the self-care weekend. That's a fantastic thing to do. I love it.
For sure. Yasina, are you from Texas? I wonder if she's from Texas. Let us know. So tonight we are just going to be talking about What are we talking about?
I'll tell you something we could talk. Something we talk about. We had a kind of interesting TLAP chat on Monday, and we asked people about preparing for interviews and interview questions that they've had that they thought were interesting, or the things that they would like to see different in the teacher interview process, or just interview for educators in general. And I thought some people had some great ideas, and so maybe we could toss a couple of those around.
Yeah, and I actually pulled them up just in case we did decide to talk about those, because I really liked, first of all, we asked questions very specific, like what was your favorite interview question that you've ever had, like during an interview, and then maybe what's a good one that people should ask. And or I also liked when we talked about, Dave, what is something that is not a part of the hiring process that you feel like it really should be? I thought those, we came up with some pretty cool answers on those too. So I know you had a great one that got a lot of love. So maybe you could start with that one. So as you are joining in, talking to us, interviews for teachers are tough. Yes, interviews for anything, right? It's tough. Yeah, thank you. I have a San Diego hoodie on today, even though I'm in Kansas. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you feel like should be a part of the hiring process, but you don't see it that often? Or else you've been a part of a hiring process and you saw it and you're like, that needs to be here every single time. So go ahead and put your answers in the comments. And I know Dave had a pretty cool one that got a lot of love in chat on this one. So Dave, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so the one that seemed to get the most energy of my responses is I mentioned the idea that I would love to see a part of the process be the teachers actually teaching. So actually in front of an authentic audience, and whether it's kids or adults, but preferably kids, but it could be adults too, but is seeing them actually do what you are hiring them to do. It's just a strange thing if you think about that. The majority of teachers are hired without anyone ever seeing them do what it is that they're actually going to do, right? And I think it's possible. I think my reasoning behind this is I think it's very possible for you to be great at interviewing and maybe not so good at teaching, and the opposite. You could be a fantastic teacher and not interview very well. And so I don't think those things go hand in hand. And so I think that we're missing some great candidates who maybe just don't come across well in an interview. And then maybe we're also selecting some candidates which are just very polished and well-spoken in front of like a panel, but then they're not so great at connecting with kids. And so I think that that's something, I know it's something that might be too cumbersome to do early on in the process when you have just like a huge number of candidates, but when it gets whittled down to make it a final decision, I think conducting some sort of mini lesson or something like that would be kind of a telling and good thing to do.
I love it. I love to some of the comments here. Well, first we can take Amy's here. I'll let you talk to that one and then I'll pull up some of these too, Dave.
I love this. So what are some of the out of the box ideas that you use in the classroom to engage your students? How do you make sure that you address the 21st century learning standards in your classroom? Great questions. Yeah, I love that. I think both of those would be fantastic. I think along those same lines, a question that I've seen that I love is what do you do when a student doesn't learn? And so like what are your strategies? What are your go-tos? What are your next steps? So you teach your wonderful lesson and the student or students don't get it. What do you do next? So then what? What are you going to do next? And then you get to see kind of their thinking process. And maybe you're going to run into some teacher that says, hey, like if I taught it, they didn't get it, like that's their problem. Or you're going to see someone say like, oh, well then that's on me because clearly I didn't communicate in a way that was effective for them. And I would, and I think you could pick up some big differences if we ask them what would happen. Like, so what happens when students don't learn? What are you going to do then?
Yeah. Good. I do see Yasina talking about we just need applicants. I agree. I think, right now there's probably definitely a shortage out there, but no matter who we get in that room, they're still taking care of kids. So I think it's still important, like even if we have a low number, that we are still like asking them some important questions, at least get them thinking in that way. I also really like, adding students as a part of the interviewing process. We did that at the last district I was in. They were a part of the student council, even elementary. We had 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. there's student council, 2 members of each of the student council piece got to be a part of the interview process. And they took so much pride in their questions. A lot of them had their own, they had a question they had to ask that was part of our protocol, right? But then they also got to add their own question. And that was really fun. They had to get their questions edited and make sure they were going to sound proper, before they joined the interview process. So they just took a lot of pride in it. And honestly, I think the teachers just really lit up when the kids were there asking them questions. And afterward, we took the children's feedback as well. It was very much a part of the process. Now, they didn't make or break the hiring necessarily, but if you can't influence a kid, if a kid's like, whoa, no, you listen to them. Another one that was really fun was in my last administrative job. For the second, so you made it past the second interview, there was a third interview. So it was like the final interview for the final 4, basically, final 4 people. And one of the questions was in an email sent to me, and it says, please prepare a 10-minute max presentation to share a little bit about you. It was super simple. You couldn't go over 10 minutes. They would stop you, and it basically spelled that out in the end. So you needed to share 10 minutes of you that would, and all of their questions were based off of your 10-minute presentation. So it was really interesting, very cool. They had a scripted set of questions too, but they just based their questions. If they couldn't come up with some, they based them right off of your presentation. It was really challenging, but I loved it. I loved studying the district ahead of time and kind of thinking of things that I've provided before or done, or that my experience is going to help enhance their goals, but also telling them a little bit about some of the things I've done. I just gave them 3 specifics that I think are kind of why I got in the field, my strength, and what I could bring to the table as an administrator, and then just kind of tied it into some of their goals. But 10 minutes is quick. It's like an Ignite. An Ignite is only 5 minutes, so it's just double that. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. We loved the question so much that when I told Lawrence about it, they ended up hiring their coaches using that question. And one of the coaches used she had this little suitcase with a bunch of different hats in it. She had a 10-minute presentation to share all the different hats she's worn, in all her different roles, and how they would help move our district forward. She was one of our first coaches that we hired. So cute, so fun. But there's just so many things you can do with something very open-ended like that. It only takes 10 minutes of your piece, and you're not having to prepare it. There were people too that would come in and they would just simply read their resume. Don't do that. They read that for 10 minutes. That's a really bad idea. But I thought that was a fun question.
Yeah. And so Jay, I've got bad news. So you'll have to talk to Tara about this, but I don't know. Have you done anything with that New Jersey winter? Because if you think I'm leaving San Diego during the winter, I don't know what you're talking about. I thought I'm wearing my hoodie all day today, and it was 60. Thinking this is oh my gosh, this is freezing. What is going on around here today? It's cloudy and 60. How am I supposed to deal with this weather? New Jersey, I don't know if I can handle it. And plus, the other problem with New Jersey, there may be more, but we'll leave that alone. But one of them is the Newark airport. And so I have some big problems with Newark airport. Why is there always construction everywhere around the Newark airport? And why is it impossible? I have left the rental car center of the Newark airport and been say 7 minutes from my hotel, driven for 10 minutes, and then being 15 minutes from my hotel. Because you pull out of these things and my GPS is going, there's 5 different ways you can go. And it's merge left and then right, then left. And then it's merge to the left and then the right. And there's all these things you have to make these decisions. And then half of them are closed off for construction. And one time in New Jersey, this is a true story. I don't know why I'm on this, but I'm just going to tell you.
He's on a soapbox.
One time in New Jersey, I could see my hotel, right? And I just kept getting further and further away from it. And I would go on the thing. At one point, I pulled off the road, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I almost started crying I was ready to like just go back to the rental car center, return my rental car, and just get an Uber to the hotel because I knew they would be able to get me there. Like I was like maybe I just need to grab my bags out of the back and just I can see it. Now I just need to walk there because there are no roads that go from here to there because all right.
Construction. So Jay, I think that's a no. Been there, done that, or that. I will say though, I never think of J school as I never think of. I know it's Northeast, but I still never think of it being cold because the one time, two times that I visited, but one time particularly, it was like the middle of summer, it's like June, and so scorching hot, and they don't have air condition in their school. It was like 85 degrees in the classroom with a bunch of little sweaty bodies. Oh man. I'm like, Jay, how do you do this? It's so hot. But I always think about how hot it is there. They don't have anything.
And to answer our next question, yeah, Winnipeg, if New Jersey's out, Winnipeg. I mean, she'll talk about it being a nice day and it's still like below zero. Like that's it warms up to well below zero. I don't know. I just don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, not my jam either. So one of the other questions back to like what we were talking about, one of the things people asked that came up quite a bit in that question, Dave, was people saying they should ask about their passions. They could ask about the teacher's passions and strengths and those things. Yes. I thought that was a really good one. Too, making sure that we care about them as a human and learn a little bit about them. So I know there's so many different things we could do for interviews, but one other of the question that I would be interested to hear your responses is maybe an interesting question that you've been asked in an interview. And this can be funny or it can be good or it can be like wrong in every way. But I would love to hear like, you've either been asked or you've heard it asked in an interview and you're like, well, that was a bad question. Or that was an interesting question. I like that question.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think we've talked about this one before, but one of the question that I always bring up because it's the one that the person who hired me said that this is why I got hired was they asked about what books have I been reading and how they impacted my educational philosophy or my like educational practice. And to me, like I just like started rattling off books that I had read and like what I had learned and how like they had changed my thinking on different things. And they said that it was like a close call between lots of different candidates, but like a lot of the other candidates were kind of like, what books have I like? They could hardly come up with a book they had read about education, And I was just like I almost couldn't stop talking about it. And they're like, okay, this guy's a reader. He's a learner. He like really loves this stuff. Like this is what his passion is, learning more about education. And we like this. And so like that was the separating question for me in my interview panel.
I love it. I remember Kristen too talking about and she's not in here tonight, but she's usually in here. She said one question she remembered getting asked a long time ago in all caps was about how she incorporates technology into the classroom. She said, man, if I could answer that now. I'm thinking a lot of us probably feel that way. We're like, oh, we got that. Can you please ask us that one?
Yeah. So I see Amy here was asked how to communicate to a parent in Spanish that their child wasn't doing their homework. There we go. She had to answer in Spanish. I'm not an advanced speaker, but I was able to answer it somewhat. I think that's fantastic. Just that whole piece of communication in general. So that with a non-English speaker, that's fantastic. But then also, and this came up in the chat too, is that wanting to see a piece of some sort of written communication, because part of what you do as a job is you have to, maybe you're emailing parents and things like that. And so the idea that someone can express themselves in some sort of written format in a professional way, that would be something I would want to know as well. Another one that I noticed lots of people talking about, and it's kind of hard to imagine exactly how to do this, but they mentioned wanting to see the person interact on a more informal basis with staff members and people, and just to kind of get a sense of whether or not this person was going to be a good fit for the school culture. Like, are they going to fit in with other people? Are they going to be able to have good relationships with their colleagues? And that could be something that's so difficult to pull out during an interview, like the typical interview where you have a panel of people on one side of the table and the person on the other side of the table, and it's just straight, question answer. But some sort of way where you're seeing them with others is powerful. And I remember, gosh, I can't remember who said this, but it was fantastic. One of the things that they did, I can't even remember if it was an education person, but I love this concept, is they always took their people that they were interviewing out to lunch at some point, like the final candidates out to lunch. And the reason they did that is they wanted to see how they interacted with like the wait staff of restaurants and different things like that. And the idea that if someone is disrespectful to someone in like of the wait staff, that tells you everything that you need to know about that person and how they feel about their status compared to others and all that kind of stuff like that. And I thought that was kind of a fascinating idea as well.
Yeah, totally. This one's kind of funny. Will I get a costume or a cool hat to promote my agenda as I say this to a pirate right now? She was asked, how might I further the field of education in public? Apparently, the correct answer was not. Actually, I think it's very much a great answer.
Wow.
I mean, Jay Billy would say that too. He has so many hats in his office. It's awesome going there. Like you can always find all these different hats to greet the kids, and so much fun. I like Jay's too above. He said this in the chat too. He always asked the candidates to convince him to put his own child into their class. That's good. That's good. I also really appreciate Sean's statement here. He said the tech piece and even the books and practices to further himself as an educator, so much different than when he started his career. I would definitely testify to that as well.
I like what Jay said too about the fact that he enlists his secretaries and they're in the waiting area with the secretaries, and then he's asking them like kind of what their thoughts were about the candidates. That kind of goes to the same kind of thing that I was talking about earlier.
And, you never know who is part of that hiring process. I've always been told as soon as you accept the email, like you are being interviewed, like at that point. And like from that point forward, everything you do, every interaction you do with anybody to do with that is part of that interview process. That's what I've always been told.
I mean, that I know just in a personal way, like I immediately, anyone who's disrespectful to someone in any position, like in a restaurant or anything like that, like I am so completely like turned off by that. And like I lose all respect for the person if I see them, berate a waiter or a waitress or something like that. That's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah. So the question of interacting with, I love seeing the flip side of this because I think it's good to view all different perspectives, interacting with the staff beforehand. And it's suggesting maybe even just references of character, because sometimes if you are it's hard to warm up to people really quick. That could be really challenging. That doesn't mean they're not going to be a great teacher or a great team player. Just could be their personality can't warm up quite that quick. And I think that definitely needs to be considered if you try something like that for sure. Let's see. Oh, I'm missing the people that we're talking about here. Maybe this one, Sean? How I deal with difficult colleague who would be on my team, but isn't one for collaboration or teamwork. Ooh, that would be a hard question. That would be a tough question to answer.
That's what planks are for on pirate ships.
Yeah. All gotta welcome.
When we talk about this season, I know there's lots of people who not only, a lot of people probably obviously already have their job who are tuning in, but maybe you want to go for another job. And we have several things on that. Like the She Leads book, I noticed has several parts about that, about lots of people don't apply for jobs out of sort of some sense of like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm qualified for that, or I probably wouldn't be right. And their advice is to absolutely go for it. There's nothing to lose. If there's a job out there that you are looking at and going, oh, that's the position I would love to have, go for it. Throw your name into the hat. There's no downside to applying for something. If you don't get it, you still have your job, right?
Yeah.
So feel free to expand what you think is possible for you and apply for jobs that you think would be a better fit for you. And you don't have to stay. If you're in a place that's making you miserable right now, you're not stuck. You know, go look around. And certainly right now, we're in a market where people are desperate for teachers and desperate for people to fill roles. And so this might be the perfect time for you to get out of that toxic environment that you don't want to be a part of, because, you know, for sure, you know, districts everywhere are hiring. And so don't feel trapped in any situation that you're currently in, because certainly there's opportunities out there right now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm living proof of that. Remember my last role as a district administrator, like you were actually supposed to be a principal for a couple of years for that role. And I just wanted to try it. A friend of mine worked in that district. She's like, you should just apply. It's good practice, you know, just to put your application out there, because I was trying to get principal roles. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I mean, it'll give me some practice. And then I got an interview and I was like, oh, I'm gonna really get some practice now. And I was excited about it. I also just knew I wasn't fully qualified. I thought they were just being nice because I knew someone on at the district office, and turns out I got the job. Like it was like a wild spin, but it became, at first it was kind of like me interviewing them too. You know, I was asking them as many questions I think as they were asking me, because I honestly had never done that before or trained to do that. And so at the end though, I wanted that job as bad as they wanted me. So it worked out really perfect. But you never know. Like, you just never know. Put your name out there, give it a shot, and give it your best. Like, walk in there planning to get the job. That I never play to lose, like ever. Yeah. I always play to win. So it was game on, but I also knew that I was underqualified. But
Wait, Tara, are you trying to convince us that you might be a little competitive or something? I don't know.
Slightly.
I mean,
just really like
don't worry, we see the CrossFit videos. We know. Okay. So, by the way, we have a couple other resources that might be of interest to people who are looking for a new position or want to change roles. One, Jill Seiler has a fantastic course, Increase Your Impact, which even has some stuff in there about preparing for interviews and about how to build, you know, to find a mentor and lots of different stuff that would be helpful. So in our DBC University online courses, the Increase Your Impact course from Jill Seiler is fantastic, super affordable. If you are looking to step up in your career, that would be a great choice. And then if you are currently a teacher and you are considering going into some sort of leadership position, some sort of position outside the classroom, or maybe you just took a job that's outside the classroom, from Teacher to Leader by Star Saxstein is also a fantastic book, which is in our line. And so Star's book, From Teacher to Leader, will definitely help you to make that transition from the classroom to outside of the classroom, if that's the leap that you're making or looking to make.
For sure. We have quite a few books, I think, too. Even Lead Like a Pirate talks a little bit about, don't they talk a little bit about interviewing in there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They do. They have a whole section on getting the right people on the ship, kind of like, you know, how to get the right crew onto the ship. And so there's a whole fantastic section about interviewing in there too.
I'm dropping From Teacher to Leader over here too, because somebody's going to win a free book. And remember, you get free reign of all books on our site, which is cool. That means you get to choose. So I will drop our link over here for all the books so you guys can check them out. But yeah, this has been fun. And we have a few more comments over here. Let's see. Oh, She Leads is so good, Ryan. It's good for anyone too. Yeah, we have.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's so nice to see it from, you know, different perspectives. This has been a fun conversation. Just keep in mind, if you are interviewing, page 101. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay.
Jay's got even the page number. I have a feeling maybe he's referenced that section a couple times.
I love it. I love it. Remember, if you are interviewing, go in with confidence. I mean, Dave, what would be your one tip to give someone Like if they're walking into an interview, not questions and stuff, like what would be your best tip? How about anybody over in the comments, drop your best tip for anybody going into interviews right now?
Yeah, so I think my best tip, I think that people, a lot of times they're so kind of nervous and focused on the answers that they lose a little bit of their natural charisma and that energy. And so I think that there's just something so contagious about someone who you just get a sense is having
Really?
fun and is charismatic. And you're picturing, whenever, like when I'm talking to people, like I'm picturing them doing what I want them to do. So I'm picturing these people in a classroom in front of kids.
Mhm.
And so if this person is kind of robotic and monotone and very like stiff and formal, I'm
Yeah.
picturing that in front of a group of 30 kids and thinking this person's probably going to get eaten up, right? And
Right.
so I think going in with the attitude that you're going to, have a little bit of fun, try not to be so stiff, be a little, feel free to show that charisma. And um, if you feel that you have to kind of mute yourself in order to get that position, well, that position probably isn't for you. Like if
Yeah.
they're turned off by your passion and your charisma, your energy, it's probably not a good fit for you. And so go ahead, feel free to be yourself in the interview process and lay it all out there. And I think that's going to help you in the long run. And if it does hurt you, then it probably wasn't a good fit anyway.
It's so true. I believe that 100%. Like I guess you can't really go over 100, even though people say that a lot. I believe it completely. I think that's you got to be real. I mean, because when you walk in there day in and day out, when it's your job, they're going to see the real you anyway. They might as well get to see the real you right away. I also love that Ryan mentioned ask them questions, and we talked about that too in the chat. What questions do you ask them? Like at the end of the interview, you need to have a couple. You should have a couple to ask them, and you should be curious. I mean, one of my favorite questions to ask is like, what makes you love this job so much? Because if they can't answer that, like, and I want some specifics, like, why do you love this job so much? This district, this school, this building, this leadership, like, why do you love it? Tell me. And I asked that in my last job, and I loved their answers. It's kind of what sold me on them, because remember, I was still like not 100% sure I could even do this job. And I was like, okay, I want to work here. Like, that's it. If all of them say that, I want to work here. Even the kids were saying like why they love that job. I mean,
Yeah.
why they love their school. And so it's really important to ask them. Oh, Karen, no worries. We always have the replay. You're always welcome. It's probably our spring forward, all of our time zone switches that messes people up when they're out of country.
Karen, we're just glad to see you on Facebook. We hear that.
Yeah.
I saw that
Oh,
maybe
yeah,
there
she was
was.
in Facebook jail.
I heard you were in Facebook jail. That's right. So we're glad to see you out and about and walking these Facebook streets.
Yes, for sure. I over preparing, I have mixed feelings about this, Sean, and I know we're going over our time, but I like to pretty much stalk the place that I'm going to be going to. I want to look up as much stuff as I can, but I don't over prepare in that I don't like rehearse a bunch of questions. But I like to learn as much as I can about their district, because I want to tie in my response to like something that I saw them doing. I want them to know that I'm actually interested enough that I looked it all up too, or I asked people. So I do agree with you in a sense that like you don't want to over prepare. Like some people will just read like thousands of questions and try to come up with answers to them. I don't agree with that. But learn as much as you can about the place, I think is very, very helpful.
So I think the difference between well prepared and over prepared is key. And like, so you're saying it's important to be well prepared. I agree with that. Sean is saying over prepared. And I think one of the differences kind of like whether you're scripted, right? So I think
Mhm.
doing the research and preparing, that's important, but feeling overly scripted is bad, where someone asked the question and then you're kind of like, oh, and like you have like your little set answer that you dive into, and it's like sounds like they're reading off of a page, like, oh, this person has just practiced this in the mirror like 40 times and now they're spitting out their little canned answer. And then I think that's when it comes across not so well. So
Not
prepare,
organic.
yes. Script, probably not so much.
No. I also think having being able to like go with the flow. if they ask this and then they ask this, and you could just kind of transition very well. And the more you know, I feel like the more you know about the place, the easier it is to do that, in my opinion. Like you can say, oh, yeah. And another thing I love, and I don't know that many schools do this, and I'm not really sure how this works in the school system, but I love it about Dave and interviewing with DBC Inc. is just like anything this guy could teach me, he didn't care to ask me that stuff. Like that didn't matter. It was all about connecting to the audience. It was all about the things like he wanted to know what I could do, what I would bring to the team. And any of the things that I didn't already know, those weren't like a stumbling block. That was just stuff I was nervous about it. So I'd ask question, but for Dave and Shelley, it was just like, okay, we can teach you that. Like we'll get you the training for that. That's no big deal. Well, one of our graphic designers will teach you that piece. We just need you to be able to do this. Like this is the stuff we really can't teach you. And I think if you think about that when people are coming in, we can't teach character. Well, you can, but if they come in with some solid character, that sure does go a long way. You can teach them that curriculum. You can teach them all of those different little things. I sat in a teacher interview one time and they were making me like asking me very specific things about the animated alphabet, which I had never heard of because I came from Texas to Kansas. We did not use that in my district in Texas. And I was like, I'm sure I can learn it, but they didn't care. They wanted someone who already knew how to do that. That's stupid. Like to me, that's stupid. That's the kind of stuff you can teach people to do.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
For sure. These are great. Okay. So we don't want to keep you all night. I'm always looking for someone that adds things. Yes, exactly. Something you don't already have. We don't want a ton of Taras. Like that would be a disaster.
Hey, Tara, as we're getting ready to get out of here, I have a question for you. First of all, Saturday is a continuation of the coaching conversation in Lead Lap. So that's happening at 9:30 Central on Saturday morning. They're going through anchor conversations, and the next chapter of that is coming up this Saturday at 9:30. So if you're interested in coaching conversations as an educator, that's going to be in Lead Lap Chat on Twitter. And I don't know, are we allowed to tease that we have like a free webinar coming up, even though we don't have the link yet? Can we just tease it?
We're totally going to talk about that, actually, okay. For sure. And I definitely want to talk about the hook of the week. Dave, do you want to speak to the hook of the week real quick? And then I'll pull up the...
Okay, so the kinesthetic hook is the hook of the week this week. How can I incorporate movement into this lesson? This is the I like to move it hook, right? And so I love to get kids up and moving during lessons. And there's lots of different ways you can do that. TLAP has lots of questions, and the blog post at daveburgessconsulting.com has some of those questions straight out of Teach Like a Pirate for you to ask about your lessons to incorporate movement. I wrote a whole blog post about it one time talking about being trapped in the middle seat. Are we trapping kids in the middle seat? You've all been in that situation before where maybe you have a cross-country flight and you're in the middle seat and the person on the aisle falls asleep and you're stuck and you're sitting there, and like it is tough. And too often school is like being trapped in the middle seat of a cross-country flight where kids are sitting too long. They get fidgety, lose their attention. And so the more often we could get kids up and moving and getting that oxygen flow to their brain and getting those wiggles out, all those different kind of things, and you can incorporate it into your lesson. This is not just like brain break. Brain breaks are fine too, where they get up and do something that's completely non-education related, but even embedded into the delivery of your curriculum, into your content, there are ways that you can incorporate movement. And that's what this hook is about, is embedding the kinesthetic hook into your content. I'll give you a quick example, which is often done at ed camps. So this isn't mine, but I'll just kind of give you an example of this. So this is often done at ed camps. We can do it anytime. Is you can turn the room into an opinion meter. So over on this side of the room is strongly agree. Over on this side of the room is definitely disagree, 100% disagree, and then there's a gradient in between. So in the middle will be, oh, I'm not so sure. So strongly agree, strongly disagree, and then you start throwing out questions. You can start with some fun ones, maybe some ones that are just kind of a little bit funny, like I think the best animated movie of all time is Shrek or whatever it might be. And like you could go across the thing, get them warmed up to the idea of using the classroom as an opinion meter. And then you can start getting into your content and your curriculum. And then you see people moving all over. And then you can spice it up a little bit by you take someone over on the strongly agree section and have them say, okay, try to swing it, try to like justify, try to persuade people to move over more towards your side. Why are you all the way over on that side of the room? They say, well, because I believe that in the and they talk about whatever the content is, and then someone on the other side will give their justification, and then we see if the people in the middle start to move more and more. You see, like, oh, when that person makes a strong point, all of a sudden some of these people in the middle move more towards them or move more back this way. And you see people flow back and forth as the arguments in the classroom are starting, and so you can see like a very visual sense of where people stand on any given issue. And obviously, the more controversial the issue, the more fun you're going to have in the classroom.
For sure. That's a fun one. And there's so many ways to incorporate movements in the classroom. I know like several were sharing even on Twitter already of some of the ways that they do it. So definitely can be as simple or as like that was simple even, but it can be also very dramatic too. That would be fine too. We do have a webinar this weekend though. It's on Sunday. It's at 1 p.m. Central. Remember our webinars are free. And it's great because you get to learn from some amazing speakers. So we will have Michael Cohen, the tech rabbi, will be our speaker, our instructor for the webinar on Sunday. This link will go out tomorrow morning. First thing in the morning, you will get it in your email. You'll also see it on social media. You will definitely want to join this because not only do you get the webinar, which is always fun content, it's very applicable. It's stuff you can take and use right away. But you also get special offers that are only offered to those that sign up for the webinar. And keep in mind, even if you can't join live, you still get to watch the playback. It's available for 48 hours and you still get all the cool benefits of actually being signed up just for even the same ones that the people that joined live get. So definitely sign up for this. It's going to be amazing. Michael is so crazy awesome. If you've never heard him speak, you definitely want to be there.
That's just what I was going to say, Tara. If they haven't seen Michael yet, Michael is fantastic. You're going to absolutely love him. He's so energetic and he's got so much knowledge. You're going to really love his style.
You will love it. Yes. So definitely try to join us for that. Remember, you do have to sign up. All these webinars, we will be having a webinar every single month for the rest of the year. And every time they show up, they are free. You get to join them for free and you get cool benefits that involve like sometimes $10 and $20 coupons. So you definitely want to check them out. All right, that's enough for that. And Dave, I'll let you close us out tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And as always, we are so happy and so honored that you take some time out of your week to pop in here and be with us. And it's always a long week. This is a Thursday night. So tomorrow, TGIF, have a fantastic weekend. And we cannot wait to connect with you next week as well.
Yes, bye everyone. See you next week.